Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our live Monday night special from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. 5:01. I think that counts as on time. Do I get that? Do I get a grace period of 1 minute? I think I should. I'm going to make an official executive decision and decide that 1 minute is still considered to be on time. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here, for carving out a little bit of your Monday night to talk with us. I see a lot of familiar faces: Hazel I and Jenny G and JC Broadway and Afton and Jody Arrington and Crazy Mom RN. Thank you guys so much for being here. Check in, say hi, let us know where you're from. If this is your first time watching with us, I see a lot of new names and faces in the chat as well. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Joshua Ritter. I'm a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for over 10 years. Then I left to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. And this is Courtroom Confidential, where we try our best to present to you both sides of the courtroom. We hope that we accomplish that. And this is our live Monday night special, where we just talk about what's going on, what to expect for the week ahead, what's the big news happening in true crime right now. And of course, it is Donna Adelson. Donna Adelson, the murderous matriarch from Miami, is on trial down in Tallahassee. And we thought, who better to kind of help us walk through the events of the last few days but Gigi from Pretty Lies and Alibis. We're a big fan of hers. We know that a lot of you are a big fan of hers as well. And what a day. This is of any of the days to talk about this trial, this was the day. We had the highly anticipated testimony of Wendi Adelson, the daughter of Donna, along with the kind of estranged eldest son, Rob Adelson, testified. So two of them in the same day. It was really a watershed moment in this trial, and it's early on. This trial is progressing along very quickly. So a lot for us to dive into tonight. Please stay to the very end. We do have some announcements for you. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. While you're sitting there, take a moment to please like this episode. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and please share this with somebody who you think might enjoy it. But I'm going to go ahead and keep my mouth shut while we bring our guest on. Hey there, Gigi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you holding up? I know that you got a lot of spinning plates going on in life right now.
I do. My grandmother's back in the hospital, and y'all know she's my ride or die. But yeah, I mean, still blessed through it all. So just chugging along, and lots of coffee.
Yeah, lots of coffee. I feel like that is the way that I fuel my entire life as well. Lots of coffee. So we're both hyped up on caffeine, which is good. We're juiced. We're both juiced on caffeine, which is always a good place to be in. This was the day for the Donna Adelson trial. If you ask me, I feel like at the end of this trial, if there is a conviction, jurors will point back to probably this day as being a day that was really a turning point for the prosecution. Again, a lot of trial to be had. Many things can happen. There's still a bunch of evidence to be presented. I still think that they need to connect some dots. But as far as I'm concerned, this was already a very pivotal moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've never heard from Rob Adelson before, so that's in itself was interesting. But in my opinion, and we just talked about this before we went live, I think he totally secured his mom's conviction today. Just so credible. He seemed very wounded up on that stand, very uneasy, especially at those sidebars. And he wasn't up very long in the grand scheme of things, but he packed a punch when he was up there, because this is a man who is very credible. He seems very removed from the family, really, since he left for college. So not, totally immersed with the Adelson clan and all of their evil deeds. So I think to the jury, they've had enough with day 1 and 2, especially with Wendi on the stand, to see the dysfunction, but to see him as somebody who just kind of came in, sat on the stand, and gave a very, very bad look to his mother as controlling and all those other things. No, he was huge for the state.
Yeah. He was also presented, and I think this is really important. I think that they say that the way that people communicate, the vast majority of it has to do with your demeanor, your body language, just the way that you present yourself. And even if you were watching this without the sound on, and just in that picture that we have there, he looked like a tortured soul. Like he looked like someone who had gone through a tremendous amount of tragedy, and we know that he has, and that this was a moment he was not thoroughly enjoying at all.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot more history there than he testified to. He did a podcast with his wife a couple of years ago. I cannot remember it. Somebody I'm sure will and put it in the comments. But he told a story of how even Donna got involved in his relationship when he was, I believe, he was maybe in Texas. Don't quote me on that. But he was in a relationship with his now wife, and Donna threw a fit because she was not Jewish, which ironically to her, Dan was too Jewish. But
Yeah,
it caused Rob to leave her, and he started dating somebody else. And then he realized, you know what? This is who I love. And so he ended up and married her, and they live a very normal life in New
yeah,
York. But I agree with you. I mean, you have to look at the past trauma he has with his mom. And then, in his mind, his thought is that they all were involved. In fact, that was part of the reason they had this deposition, and there was an issue about some of the things he wanted to testify to was that he thought his mom was capable of this. So I think that you just take all of it, but him looking so sad. And when they said, who is Donna? Well, she's my mother. You see him get choked up. So
yeah.
there's that confliction, I'm sure, of, there were good times in his childhood. Wasn't all bad, clearly. But, for him to be a part of this family that is now infamous, as being the like Grandma Gotti and this whole case, it's gone on for over a decade. Uh, this was his moment to get up there and do his justice for Dan. And that really meant throwing his mom, really, and his brother and kind of Wendi under the bus.
I can't imagine that. I mean, just for a moment, like try to remove ourselves from the theater of all of this. You imagine being a person who's on the stand testifying in your own mother's murder trial. Your brother is in prison for the rest of his life. You likely believe that your sister was involved. You've got your father sitting there in the back, and who knows your thoughts on him. And your mom is on trial for like this is his whole family. And again, Dan Markel lost his life. The tragedy to their family, I'm not at all trying to diminish from, but the Adelson family has been torn to shreds as well. And he, like you said, probably the only one who wasn't involved in this is the real another one of the victims of this completely sordid affair.
Yeah, and you do always have that wide net of living victims, from the children to people like Rob, who were in-laws, to friends and colleagues, and it's never ending in that regard. But you look at Rob and you think, I mean, he's a doctor, he has a practice, he has two children that are in school, and for over 10 years, his name has been associated with all of this, and not in a good way. So, the struggle for him personally, professionally, however else it's impacted him in a negative way. And not to mention, your entire family are either convicted co-conspirators, or, as they call Wendi, an unindicted co-conspirator. And then you're just here. So I'm sure he questions everything from
Yeah.
childhood to today, that I can't imagine what he's gone through and what he will continue to go through.
It's so sad. I keep on saying this. To me, it's like a Shakespearean tragedy. I mean, the fact that you've got one brother who's a sociopath, running around doing steroids with the Maestro license plate, sleeping around doing whatever he does. You've got the daughter who's likely involved in the planning and murder of her own husband. And then you got him, the normal one, who now has to come in and testify against his own mother. It really is something that you could not get somebody to buy in a Hollywood script. I want to get into the testimony today. Before we do that, I want to thank Jenny so much for the gift of memberships. Appreciate that, Jenny. And Surviving the Survivor, Joel and crew, thank you guys so much for the gift of memberships. I was watching them earlier today, and excellent coverage of this case. Farm Girl, thank you so much for the gift of memberships. Linda Paulin, thank you so much for becoming a member. All right. That's it. Let's get into first. We talked about Rob, but he didn't testify first. And I think I actually want to talk about that order. I think that was very deliberate and very impactful too. And the fact that they testified next to each other, the juxtaposition of these two people is also remarkable. None of this, I think, was by mistake. But the first person to testify, not the first person to, but the first person we're going to talk about, the most highly anticipated person of the day, was Wendi Adelson, the daughter, the ex-wife of Dan, the person who I think, if you want to talk about being the inception point of all of this, is Wendi and her failed and then very contemptuous a divorce that took place. But talk to me about her testimony, how impactful you think it was or not, and if anything stood out to you. I've got some notes, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
I don't know that it was very impactful. I mean, she forgot everything. And what cracked me up all day, Josh, is she would say, I don't recall encapsulments like tab 35, tab
Yeah.
5. And then she would have Wendi read it out to the jury. She came across as forgetting very convenient things that would make her look bad. Watching her from past trials, I think she has sort of fine tuned her testimony a bit. But overall, she didn't do her mom any favors, and I don't think she did herself any favors. For me, the biggest thing about her testimony that gets me every trial is when they go over her changing those boys' names. I don't think you could look worse in front of a jury than in that moment. I mean, even with did she have anything to do with it? Of course, I mean, that's horrible. But for me, it's just that erasing Dan out of their lives in that way. For me, it's like I would change their name back to Markel right now because you don't want the Adelson name attached to them because it's trash. But I just feel like she conveniently forgot everything that was important. And I mean, to me, the way Donna's attorney threw her under the bus on cross was huge because Donna had to okay that. So there were just a lot of things that stood out to me, but I mean, nothing in her direct that I was impressed with, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly did not live up to, I think, the hype of what we all expected. But then again, I think we probably were expecting more out of it than we should have. I mean, she has testified now before. She knows exactly what's coming. There's not really going to be many surprises. As good as Kappelman is, that's not like she's going to trick her up on some question she's never heard before. She knows exactly what's coming. I will say, too, I think she comes across as very intelligent, as very bright. I think she has an attempt to be earnest about her. Like there's a quality in the way that she testified where you could see some jurors believing that she was trying to be honest. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there
Yeah.
wasn't kind of an obvious attempt to be deceitful and not forthcoming. Some people may view it differently, but I think some jurors could believe that she was honestly just trying to answer questions as well as she could. But I agree with you. I think she was a necessary witness, but I don't know how much she moved the needle for the prosecution at the end of the day. Tell me though, because right at the end of direct, and I feel like this is something that needs to be done, but I wonder if it even has all that much impact. Kappelman went through the whole, were you in any way involved in the plot to murder your ex-husband? No, I was not. Did you maybe know it was going to happen? No, I did not. What information do you have regarding, and all of these kind of like direct accusations that she then denies. And it's like, we're all kind of waiting for that moment where she cracks. She's never going to crack. Did you feel that there was any impact even in those final few questions?
I mean, I think that Georgia is so skillful and could teach a master class in being a prosecutor. I think more than anything, those questions were directed to just maybe rattle Wendi because Wendi gets offended when it's suggested that she had something to do with the planning of this murder. But I don't feel like that was really anything that would move the ball forward 20 yards for the state. I think overall, Wendy's testimony for the prosecution just did show in bringing in these emails of suggestions that Donna had and all of that stuff. It just verified that Donna was absolutely obsessed with the relocation and that she hated Dan, no matter what Wendi said, or she was mad at him or hated him. I mean, this is somebody who hated Dan Markel. And that's what the prosecution has to do, is use Wendi to show this jury through these emails, through things that they talked about, that Donna had a hatred for him because the relocation was denied. And also, they try not to make a big deal out of this grandmother motion on the defense. That was a huge deal. I mean, come on. He's threatening to only let Donna have supervised visits. And on defense, they tried to spin it a little way where it wasn't supervised visits. But I mean, I've read the motion. That's what it said. I just feel like they used Wendi to show Donna as being what she is, which is just out of her gourd.
I also feel like, too, even if she wasn't, changing that many minds with the jurors, you have to call her. If you're the prosecution, it would be make more of a statement to not call her. Like, she is, like I said, at the center of this whole thing. They're going to have to hear from her, have to hear what was going on, her explanations for what was taking place at that time, even if they don't really believe her. One last question on direct, and then I want to get into what you said about how they kind of went after her on cross, which was a little surprising to me. But I really thought this was clever, not so much because it was going to get any kind of answer out of Wendi, but I thought it was a clever way to plant a seed with jurors, where she said, did you provide any information, even unknowingly, in hindsight, that you think could have been used to assist in the murders? That's a very clever question. Now, she said, no, I don't think so. I didn't provide any information. But did that stand out to you at all?
Yeah, and you have to wonder. I mean, let's just go out on a little venture here and say that Wendi does get arrested at some point for this. All of this stuff that she has said on direct, they are going to make notes. They're going to attack her if she ever is brought to trial. I do think some of the questions are pointed, can they get her to trip up because she has the derivative use of immunity?
Mhm.
But I think in a lot of ways, they just want to make Wendi look bad. But I think they're also very effective in showing the jury, okay, even though Wendy's not on trial, there's no way these two hitmen from Miami found out Dan's schedule from that morning from anybody but Wendi. And so that would be then conveyed to Charlie. They brought up the phone call she had with Charlie before the murder, and then I think he calls Donna. So you see sort of the lines here of how this information likely got to the hitman of this is where he's going. Wendi said, I didn't get the voicemail where he said he was going to be at the gym from this time to that time. But in the meantime, she's making calls before and after Dan leaves a voicemail, and he has her kids. So if she doesn't know what the voicemail says, you're not going to convince me she didn't listen to that voicemail just at a minimum to make sure her boys were okay. So I think it just shows that it even if it may have started with Wendi that morning of his schedule, it ended with him being killed. And so Charlie's your middle guy, and they're slowly but surely establishing this almost weird relationship between Charlie and Donna. But that just leads to Donna as being a co-conspirator and, solicitation to commit murder. She may as well pulled the trigger. And so I think that may be the tactic they're using, is to sort of push it that way in the jury's eyes, because it's such a convoluted case.
It is.
And so they're seeing little grandma there in her little cardigan and, looking just so innocent. But these things lead to a bigger picture that I think over the next, few days, we're going to see really start to unfold for the prosecution to that jury.
Maybe I was reading too much into it too with that question, but it also, to me, the undertone, if you're reading between the lines of the question, it's, did you provide any information, even unknowingly, that could have been used to assist in the murders? Provide to whom? Provide to nobody else but her family, right? And that would be Donna and Charlie and everybody else. I just thought, I feel like if Wendi had almost had a moment to take a beat and really analyze that question, she might have said, like, absolutely not, because my knowledge was not used in it. You know what I'm saying? used in
Yeah,
any
I
kind
don't
of way. But
right, that's a good point. I don't think I did. Well, either you did or you didn't. And if you truly had no knowledge of anything going on and you didn't listen to that voicemail, you wouldn't have had anything to say other than
right,
I'm waiting on the Geek Squad
yeah,
and I'm doing some
yeah,
work in between. Yeah,
right,
it's she Kappelman's a chess player. She moves
yeah,
these pieces very strategically, and in the end, the picture's like, wow, light bulb moment for this jury. But it's a slow grow to get there because you can't lay so much on them. Right now, she's doing it one piece at a time. Wendi is showing the unhinged Donna in these emails. Can't wait for Charlie to get on the stand. That's going to be awkward, and
yeah.
I'm here for it. But yeah, I think Kappelman so far is doing a really good job. You have to give bite-sized pieces because unlike most of us, this jury doesn't know the first thing about this case, and it is a crazy one. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
she's doing good.
Jen Wowza says, is your name Wendi? I don't remember. I see it on my license, but I don't have a memory of that, but I'm sure it is if you say so. Yeah, I think
Turn to tab 5, Wendi.
yeah, turn to tab 5. We have a photograph of your license. Yeah. Yeah, this kind of stuff, I feel like we are hypercritical because we know that she's not being truthful. I wonder how much of the jury picked up on it, but when you do it again and again and again and again about an event that is so significant in your life, jurors start to feel like, okay, this looks a little bit performative to me at this point.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think you could probably see that with Wendi. I mean, it's like you say, she's done this so many times. They don't know that, but um, yeah, I do think it was effective though for the prosecution in just a big general sense of Wendy's testimony today.
yeah. Sky Goddess 87, so nice of you, says, love Gigi. Prayers for Grammy. That is not
Thank
very sweet.
you. She loves all y'all. I read her all
Uh,
your well wishes, and she's just blown away.
oh, sweet.
She's probably watching right now. So hey,
Oh,
Grammy.
good. Hey, Grammy. Jude the Tiger, thank you so much for gifting the membership. Best Nancy, thank you so much for the gift of a membership. Let's get to this cross, though. Cross again, kind of a big bunch of nothing, and then, and I think this is the point you're talking about. They zero in on they start to cross here, at least at one point, and this is Donna's attorney, Jackie Fulford. She turns to her and she says, not one time did she ever suggest, oh, well, this was, I felt like the one good point they made. And this is a good point, by the way. I don't think we should diminish that this is a powerful point. Not one time did she, speaking about Donna, ever suggest in writing or to you personally that Danny deserved to be harmed. Never. That is an excellent point because that is a missing piece. And that is something the prosecution is going to have to deal with. There is not in all of their text messages, all of their emails, anything that is explicitly saying, let's kill him. So
Yeah,
not something to be lost. But then here's to your point. She says, you testified that anybody in your family that has anything to do with this should be held responsible. That includes you. What was that all about?
I'm going to tell you, that was a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
And I think she ended that cross so well. It couldn't have ended any better, because I really feel like she made the point that, because on direct, the state had gone through some of the things she said in her law enforcement interview and used that against her. But man, that was just a moment. I tell you, Josh, my mouth flew open and I thought, okay, Donna just threw her daughter under the bus and backed over her for good measure. Like that, not a question. Donna had to okay this. We saw in Lori Daybell's trial, she wouldn't allow them to throw Chad or her brother Alex under the bus. But Donna was like, nah, stick her down on the road. We're going for her. And I'm kind of curious, are they going to do the same with Charlie? But at the same time, Donna wants out of jail. She doesn't want to be convicted. And boy, did they really just lay it on Wendi right there at the end. It was just one of those moments that, to me, probably the biggest one-liner, I guess you could say, of the trial so far.
Yes.
And Wendi looked taken aback a bit. She did. She looked taken aback. But Kappelman's done sort of the same thing, in the event of your arrest, and Wendy's eyes kind of get big. But I mean, this was just like boom.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like I wonder how does that help Donna's defense though? Like I don't know. It was just kind of a snarky little moment. And I'm thinking strategically, how did that advantage you by doing that? I'm not quite sure, because you're trying to say, I mean, their defense is, well, that's an interesting point. It sounds like their defense is Charlie did this on his own, right? I mean, to me, they were willing to admit paid hitmen, Catherine Benoit, Charlie Adelson, and then they want to stop it kind of right there. This, by the way, Kaylin, I got to give you credit for this. Put up the one in court, the family tree in court. Do you have that one? Oh, so Kaylin sees that this is what the prosecution's been working in court, and because she's so fantastic, she said, well, I'm going to make it easier for everybody to see. So she recreated it. This is a courtroom confidential exclusive family tree here being used by the prosecution in court. But they want to, everybody on the bottom row, the first 4 people, they're fine with admitting. And then they kind of want to draw a line. It seems like the defense. But then it's like, well, then why'd you give this like uppercut, liver shot to Wendi right at the end of her testimony there?
Yeah, I get it. And I think, again, it just, maybe that was personal. Maybe it seems like her paralegal, all she does all day is rub Donna's back and hand her tissues. Maybe that was personal for the defense attorney. But back to what, back to what you were saying about them pretty much saying that Charlie did it. As this trial goes on and these wiretaps come in, it's only going to show the jury that Donna had to have been involved. Once the bump happens and she says, this involves the both of us. So I think that was a big mistake for the defense to essentially say Charlie did this on his own, because later when we hear these wiretaps, you're going to see how fluid they are. They talk in code. And if Donna knew nothing, then why is she doing this in these wiretaps? So I was pretty shocked, actually, because they pretty much conceded Charlie's guilt, but it's just going to tie Donna to him, because we got a lot more coming in the evidence department with once the bump happens and that panic sets in. And so, I thought that was a big mistake by the defense. Or so, what was that? The first day, maybe the first day openings. Yeah. So I was like, whoa.
It was an interest. And listen, I understand it from the perspective of they know the prosecution can prove certain things. If they try to fight everything, they're fighting a decade's worth of trials here. So it's like, I understand the idea of kind of building some credibility by saying, listen, these 2 hitmen committed a murder and they got connected through this other woman. And that woman happened to know Donna's son. And, I get it, but they're not on trial here. And that's kind of the point they were trying to make. But it was funny that they, like you said, well, if they're conceding Charlie and Donna had some very interesting conversations and interactions with each other. Let's talk, though, about the star. First of all, let me thank Annie Legg for the super chat. Says, is their master plan to blame each other to confuse the jury and create reasonable doubt for Donna and prevent Wendi being charged? I mean, if you're asking about the master plan of any defense attorney, it's they thrive in the area of confusion, right? They don't want the jury walking away with a very clear understanding of what took place. So if they can sprinkle in confusion where they can, absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say, if you can't convince them, confuse them. That's my motto. But I'm going
to steal that. I like that. I'm going to put that on my business cards.
I'm going to make a shirt with it.
Sonia Shy Gal says, thank you so much, Gigi. Love to Granny. We appreciate you. Yes.
Thank you, Shy. I appreciate that.
Okay. Kaylin, if you could be so kind as to show the photo of Donna and her reaction as when Wendi was testifying. This to me spoke volumes. So Wendi takes the stand and she's already been admonished by the judge for kind of having emotional outbursts. She looks pained. She looks distraught. She looks tortured by the idea that her daughter, the apple of her eye, the reason she was willing to kill, according to the prosecution, is now on the stand testifying in her own murder trial. You can imagine, as awful a woman as this woman is, according to the prosecution, this is a bad moment for her. Then Rob, the disowned son, the one who moved away and lived a more normal life, takes the stand, and that's the look on her face.
Yeah,
That
I
to
call him the
me
good
was
son.
huge. The
Yeah.
good son. Yeah.
I call him the good son. Yeah, but there were times too where when he first took the stand and then it was a second before, they got started, there was a couple of times I looked at her and she kind of had this weird smile on her face like, "Please look at me and acknowledge me," or like
Mm.
you have to wonder what she's thinking. I mean, these are the kids you birthed, these are the kids you raised, you loved. And now both of them, and she knows Rob doesn't like her. She knows that Rob thinks she is guilty of murder, and in fact, it just hit me in his deposition. He had indicated of a prior crime that she committed that they weren't allowed to jump into, and we never learned what that was. So I'm curious about that. But yeah, I mean, just even though I think she's a horrible human being, I mean, there's just nothing redeemable about this woman to me. Um, you do have to think as a mother, did she have a moment today where she thought, how did I get here? And
Yeah.
I've always said too, Josh, did Donna really think that these boys would be 3 and 4 forever, or toddlers? Kids grow up. And you think about it, after the murder, Wendi moves down to Miami for a year and a half. Things are pretty normal. There's no arrest, nothing going on. She's raising these grandbabies, but then the bump happens. So they murdered Dan for a year and a half of kind of a normal life. And then it's been chaos since, because
Yeah.
even though they weren't arrested until much later, after Katie Sigfredo and Rivera were arrested, they could not have been laying their heads down comfortably at night. And we see that not only in the wiretaps, but in the Dolce Vita conversation between Charlie and Katie. So to me, it just blows my mind in all these cases where people kill for the kids. Do you think they're going to stay little forever? And you know what? You put a huge burden on these kids for the rest of their life, because not only is their dad gone, which is the biggest tragedy, but grandma's likely going to prison. Uncle Charlie, who I believe the boys were very close to, in prison. Who knows what's going to happen with their mom or Harvey? So, it's just, was it worth it? You have to wonder, has she sat there once and thought, oh my gosh, look what we did and look where we are?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. When you have people, I always say the type of person who is narcissistic, sociopathic enough to kill the father of their grandchildren, does that person have a normal reaction to the chaos and trauma that they have caused? Probably not. She probably feels bad for herself. She
Mhm.
feels bad for her predicament, but I don't know if she's gone as far as to feel bad for the kids and for
Yeah.
Rob and for all of the other damage that she's done.
Yeah,
Um,
and going back to what you said about the way she was looking at Rob, you think about it, he's the one that bucked the system. He
yeah,
moved out at 18, never came back home, and after that initial her meddling that caused issues with the woman he loved, he never gave her that opportunity again. And going back, a lot of things that won't come in is, conversations with Charlie where she talks about, "Oh, well, I found out Rob took the kids to Disney and he didn't even call." So he was an hour and a half, 2 hours away, didn't even want to see his parents. So for a long time, Donna's had an axe to grind with Rob. And that's just because Rob never, after that one time, never let her sink her claws into his life again, and seemingly avoided her with his children. And I think that is more mad than it is sad, because
yeah,
that's just how Donna operates.
yeah. Let's get into some highlights. Jen Wowza says, meddling murderous matriarch of mastermind of Miami. Oh, wow. You just turned it up to 11, Jen Wowza. I appreciate that. Um, let's get into some of what I feel were kind of the highlights of his testimony. And there was a lot. Julia Dunner says, I have no sympathy for Donna's children testifying against her because she had no sympathy for Dan Markel's parents, or Dan Markel's children, or Dan Markel's life, or anybody who is close to him. So I agree with you, Julia. Um, okay. He's testifying. He's talking about the FBI. He's talking about the murders taking place and how Donna had told him, and she seemed very matter of fact. And this is all kind of, I'm always looking at this stuff, and it's just because it's in my DNA, but I'm always looking at this stuff as, what is it proving? Yes, it's strange. Yes, they have a bizarre dynamic. Yes, there's a weird relationship with the mother and that she's controlling everything. But I'm always thinking, like, but what is that proving to me, right? Then we get to a point and he says that as time goes on, and like you said, there was a year and a half, close to 2 years, where No arrests have been made. And to your point, there may be thinking, we got away with this. Can you believe
100%.
this? We pulled this off. We got away with it. They're living their ideal life. The kids are back in Miami. The grandkids are there. They've changed the name. They've erased Dan from their lives. Everything's coming up Adelson. And he says that Donna had a complete lack of curiosity about who killed Dan Markel, and nobody seemed curious. And that was the first kind of point, or one of many to me, where I went, oh boy, now that does prove something to me. What were your thoughts on that?
Same thing, because, look, if you're a normal family and there's a divorce, yeah, you're going to have some bad feelings about the other party and support your child. But when the other is murdered in a brutal way like that, you would think the normal response would be, oh my gosh, like, I feel so bad. I was so mean to him. I wanted bad things to happen to him, but now he's dead. There was none of that. And the fact that nobody was ever just questioning who would do this, like, why did this happen? Who did it? I mean, that's your answer right there, because they knew who did it. They knew exactly who did it. And I think that was a big point for this jury. And it just came so naturally from Rob in a very credible way that everybody on that jury is probably thinking, well, if that were me, like, I wouldn't be able to sleep till we caught somebody. But
percent.
Yeah. There,
100%.
but to Donna, she could care less. And he made the point to say none of them, including Charlie, Harvey, Wendi, not just Donna, but the whole family. So it makes you think, well, they all had to have known.
That is exactly my point. The jury puts themselves in the position of these people, and they start to say, how would I react to this situation if I were in it? Everybody who's watching right now, think about somebody you don't like. And if that person got murdered at random, shot in their driveway, and you had no idea who committed that murder, your curiosity would be killing you. You'd be constantly thinking about, I wonder who killed so-and-so. How in the world did that happen? Because it was no sign of a robbery, no sign of a break-in, no sign, nothing. It's an execution. It's an assassination, and you don't know, and you're not even curious about it. And this is not, and I pose the hypothetical as an enemy, but it's also a family member. It is it's half of the blood of your grandchildren, and that person has been murdered for no apparent reason, and you're not even curious. That just that really got to me.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just so natural for him to say it, and it was just so impactful. That's like I said, even though he was on the stand, maybe an hour. I mean, to me, out of all the trials that I've watched, his testimony just boom, like and it's not even like I think they did it. It's all the things they didn't do that stood out to him. That was like, something's not right here.
Yes.
They're not acting like you would in a normal situation. So I think very early on, Rob suspected that they had something to do with it. And I think on that podcast, he may have said as much. I wish I could think of the name. But yeah, I mean, he pointed out what they didn't do and also what they did do. Like with Donna saying, don't talk to the police, that just, you put that together and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like,
who says that?
Is this trial going to take 2 weeks, really? Yeah. Yeah. Why would you not say, hey, if there's anything you could add, please talk to them. Like, we need to find out. I bet you none of them posted anything on their social medias about finding a murderer. We've never heard about that, but
where's the Dan Markel 5K run? Where's the, all of the, hey, everybody, nobody knows their business. Nobody knows how the animosity that was taking place in that family. Where's the, hey, we need to find this murderer. Hey, we need to find who killed the father of my grandchildren. None of that. None of the normal kind of responses you would expect out of any of this. Just cold-blooded, move on with your life. Well, that was it. Wasn't that an inconvenient little chapter? Glad we closed that. Now let's move on with our beautiful lives that we had always planned for each other. Yep. A couple of other things that stood out to me. One was what you said about the don't talk to police. But then the other one that kind of was a mic drop moment to me. Oh, it was called the Over My Dead Body podcast, episode 6.
Right. Yeah, no, it was an amazing interview. Check it out because he really opens up on there.
Interesting. Thank you for that, Kaylin. He finds out that they've made arrests close to 2 years later, and no one calls him. So now, again, going back to our put yourself in that position, now the mystery of mysteries have been solved. They've made arrests. These guys were Latin Kings gang members. Oh my God, they killed Dan. No one calls Rob. And he then waits. And I thought this was interesting. He waits. It also explains to you the dynamic in that family. Instead of calling, he waits until their anniversary when he knows they're going to get a phone call, because what a lovely family. They always call each other on special occasions. He gets the phone call, no mention, a bunch of niceties, no mention of the arrest. And then he says he brings it up and he says, I said it at least 2 or 3 times that they made an arrest. They got the guy who killed Danny. And her response was, I've got to go. And after that, she hung up the phone. And that was the last time they essentially ever spoke. That was in 2016.
Yeah,
Wow.
and the reason she didn't call and say there's been an arrest is because I'm sure in her mind she's thinking, okay, this path leads to us eventually.
Yes.
Not knowing who's talking, who's like Rivera cutting a deal and telling what he told, and so I see why she didn't call, but yeah, I mean, on Rob's end, not knowing for sure at that point that they were involved, had to have been like, wow, I'm finding out from people in the doctor's lounge in between surgeries at work and not my family who this happened to. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable, really. If you just sit and kind of take inventory of all of this, it blows your mind.
It does. And it starts to get incredibly, the spectacle of it, I think is something I find myself being fascinated with quite a bit, but it also gets incredibly sad. And I think Rob kind of brought that home today, especially because, like you said, here's a normal guy. Here's the good kid. He's living his life. He's got a strained relationship. You can tell even before all of this, things weren't the greatest between him and his parents and the rest of the family. But do you imagine the conversations taking place inside of his household? The late night over the kitchen counter conversations with his wife, and they're coming to the horrific, nightmarish conclusion that he thinks his family was in on the murder. You imagine that?
Yeah, I mean, he's a world away in more ways than one, but I guess, yeah, you can't imagine it. But maybe it wasn't as surprising as we think it would be, because he knew Donna was pretty obsessed with the relocation. I mean, he says when his kid was ready to be born, she needs the Wi-Fi because she's got to go through some papers. So maybe he wasn't as surprised, but I guess the reality of like, oh my gosh, they could be involved. It had to be a tidal wave on him. And I'm sure, he seems very close to his wife. And yeah, I can't imagine. And then you think about just once these arrests happen, I think at one of the press conferences, I mean, they had the Adelsons on a diagram listed once they start showing the connection between Charlie and Katie and the hitmen, so very early on, his whole family is on this big international news story on a big piece of cardboard with their mugs up there with the hitmen. And
Yeah.
so you have to just think, I mean, we can't imagine it, but I guess it would feel like you're living in two realities where you have your normal life and then you have this reality where your family at that point are unindicted co-conspirators in a case that was gripping the nation because it was just unsolved for a year and a half at least.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about this too. Like, I'm really trying to place myself in the position of Rob and what might he be thinking. And it's like, it's not. I don't know if this is going to make sense, but you have to think too. How diabolical is it that they went out and hired hitmen? This isn't like, not that it makes it all that much better, but somehow it makes it easier in my head for him to wrap his head around it. Like, it's not like Wendi poisoned him, right?
Right.
Wendi went out and got eye drops, which we all know now is like the poison du jour, and poisoned him to death. They went out and went to the underbelly of society, found 2 murderous hitmen, paid them money to go out and commit a hit. Like, that is, gangster level type stuff. That is like another level of somehow I cannot believe my family went to that extent. Do you see? Am I making sense with this?
No, you do, 100%. At the same time, just to look at it from the other side, he may have had that understanding of this relationship with Charlie and Donna that was weird. Money, clearly plenty of it there. Keep your hands clean, you know. But yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine. It's just he's had so much thrown on his lap. And we see that in every case where you're just your DNA related to the killer. So I'm sure he probably lost patience at his practice just because he was an Adelson.
Yeah.
But it was interesting today that, he was asked about Charlie and whether or not he really thought Charlie cared. And he was like, no, Charlie is riding his go-karts and he's driving supercars and he's dating girls all the time. And so I think that was another powerful moment for the prosecution to again say, Charlie was just kind of the middleman that was like, hey, look at me. I got money and I got connections to the other side. And let's use those to get rid of Donna's problem. So, I'm sure even now when he thinks about it, it just blows his mind. But then again, he knows a side of this family that we never will. So
Yeah.
was it a super shock? Yeah, I'm sure. But now that he's had time to think about it, was it a shock? I would venture a guess probably not. I think now he probably is like, yeah, I should have seen it from day one. But, hindsight, we have the benefit of that now and 4 trials later.
Yeah. So this is only day, what, 3 are we on? We haven't even
3.
completed a full week of testimony yet. Angie Legg, thanks so much, says, and then said, you don't know anything anyway. Oh yeah,
Oh,
that was
good
a
point.
great point. So glad you brought that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was asked, when Donna tells him, don't speak to the police, he said, I've already spoken to the FBI. And she says, well, you don't know anything anyway. Pardon me?
Yeah. Yeah, that was big.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
what a comment to say.
Yeah.
Because
What
a
do
gut
you
drop
know?
moment for him too.
Yeah. This is a random hit as far as we know. What do you know? You don't know anything either. Why are you saying that to me? Yeah. That was that. Like I say, it wasn't like he, had these big moments. It was the little things that he said that were genuine and seemed very credible that just made Donna look horrible, and Charlie and Wendi, to be honest. But that, yeah, like I say, that his testimony today, just the best I've ever seen in any of these trials, as far as, and maybe it's because he's new and we've seen all these witnesses ad nauseum for years now. But yeah, I mean, that was a big statement. I'm really glad that Annie brought that up because I was like, whoa, what do you know? We all are clueless or should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those little things that probably in the moment, like, to say it on the stand today, it probably felt very different for him just to say that out loud in front of his mother.
Yeah.
You don't know anything. Yeah.
Robin Moon Williams, thank you so much for becoming a member. We have a question here from X. We have people listening in on X, and thank you so much, Stuart Moore, for asking a question from X. Can you imagine how absolutely pathetic Donna's existence has become? On trial for murder, yes. One son LWOPed, one son estranged and testified against her, one daughter this close to being indicted and hasn't spoken to her in almost 2 years. That's also an excellent point. You've lost your daughter even out of this. She doesn't communicate with her anymore. Last time she'll ever see them was today on the witness stand. Wow. Excellent point, Stuart. Thank you for making that comment. But it's also true. Her, as much she wanted this ideal life, and instead she's lost everything herself, her entire
100%.
family. Yeah.
Yep. And it sounds like, when they asked Wendi, when was the last time you talked to your mom? And that was that we know that she talked to Wendi because on that hot mic call where she didn't hang up the phone and we kind of got to where we are today, she said she had told Wendi, or Wendi had texted her, Mom, I know you're upset about the verdict, but I can't help how the prosecutors use my words. So I'm, around that time was when they stopped talking, and you think how enmeshed they were during the separation, the divorce, the relocation, and then now to be alienated from the 3 children that you birthed and raised, and really only Harvey sticking by her. And at one point today, he was using that adult coloring book, I think that somebody gave him, because I saw him, he was kind of just, did you hear that? Like they gave him some kind of a coloring book for adults, I guess, to keep him busy or something. But she's lost everybody but Harvey. And
Yeah.
I can't think of anything more painful than losing the love and the respect of my kids. And for her, she's lost it all. And these are the ones that she was just so obsessed with their life and now nothing.
Yeah.
I'm
She's
curious. I think Charlie's going to throw her under the bus. I think Charlie has to be careful because he still is trying to get appeals and stuff like that. But then again, Charlie probably knows his chances of any kind of an appeal are like slim to none. And I'm sure he has heard how his mom threw him under the bus. I think Charlie could be a big wild card when he's called to the stand. Because you sit in prison a couple of years and he thought he was going home that day that he had verdict. Has he gotten bitter enough to where he throws Donna and Wendi under the bus? Does he have a moment where it's like, hey, this is the last time I'm going to see her, last time I'm going to have to speak up for now, unless Wendy's arrested? I'm not super convinced that Charlie's going to get up there and be any help to his mom. In fact, I'm just curious if he's not going to go that other route.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She threw him under the bus. And that's stuff that can be brought in for his appeal. Is essentially you've got the mom conceding that he did it. So is Charlie going to be ticked off enough? That's what I'm waiting on.
Yeah, I'm really curious as to how they're going to handle that. There's a part of me that even wonders if it's a big bluff that they're not even going to really call him, but I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a tight wire act if they do call him.
I think the state will call him. Because
he's on the list. They brought him down here. They transported him. So all signs point towards that.
I think he's coming up. I think I heard tomorrow it might be Jeff Lacasse, which is interesting. And today, unless I missed something, I didn't know they were having an affair before Dan was shot. That was news to me. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah. That was interesting too, coming from Rob.
She confided in him.
Right. Crime Junkie says Robert also might wonder what Donna might have been capable of doing to his wife since she wasn't who Donna wanted him to marry. Yeah, I'm sure he did a lot of how close did I get to danger, or how close did I get to being wrapped up in all of this? And yeah, I guess the one saving grace for Rob is that they didn't include him in on all of this, and they must have known. He would have been the voice of reason and said, "Are you insane? No, we're not doing this. We're not finding a hitman to go kill Dan." Yep. CJ in LA, good to hear from you, says watching Georgia was like watching Michael Jordan on the court, controlling the tempo and calling the shots with mastery. It was a clinic. It absolutely was. She's an incredibly skilled prosecutor. Walk away, Renee. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Welcome aboard. All right. What are you looking forward to coming up here? Is there something we talked about, Charlie? Is there any part of this trial that you feel like, aside from today, is going to be most impactful?
Yeah, we've already heard a little bit from Rivera. I just feel like Charlie for me is going to be the big, because that's personal. You can put law enforcement up there and talk about the evidence they found and the facts of the case, and that's all good. That family dynamic is just different and it's unique. So for me, out of anybody else that's going to be called, I'm waiting on Charlie because I just think it's a wild card. I think he's good and ticked off. So, but you have Jeff Lacasse, who I think is just going to make Wendi look even worse. And that just leads to Donna. So anytime you're talking about Wendi, whether it is Jeff, that road just leads to Donna because the state within the 3 days has already established very skillfully how crazy Donna was about all this. So Wendi leads to Donna. And then that puts Charlie as the guy that, hey, can you figure this out for us? And he did. And I think he really did it probably just to be like, look what I did for you, Mom, as opposed to really caring because like Wendi and Rob said, Charlie was like living the bachelor dream. So why would he care if 2 toddlers are in Miami? I think he just did it to appease Donna. And all roads lead to her though, for me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, yes, Charlie, I think will be fascinating. I'm looking forward to the bump. I feel like that is going to be, I feel like jurors love that stuff. They 100%. love this kind of clandestine, undercover, secretly recorded. It's got all these kind of cool elements to it. And I think they love it because they're going, wow, again, not how I would react under the same circumstances. Not what I
Right.
would
And
do. Yeah.
yeah, and you think about it, I mean, they like to feel like they're eavesdropping. So they're literally going to be listening in the real time this was happening. This code words, the panic,
Yeah.
the way things unfolded. I'm going to come see you tomorrow, or don't text me about this, or the TV is going to be about 5. It's going to be even more devastating to Donna. And, she's going to have to sit there and listen to these recordings, just like she had to sit there and listen to all these emails about herself. But yeah, I agree with you when the bump comes in. I never get bored with that stuff. I spent a lot of time covering those and did some improved audio to where you could kind of drown out the background noise and put some subtitles. And when I was prepping the crash course for this case, I went and watched a bunch of those, and man, it's just so obvious. So the state really, I think, is just going to establish bit by bit this connection with her and Charlie as being the masterminds. With whatever role Wendi had, we still don't know for sure, but we all know. But I think that leading up to the wiretaps and then when they come, that's just going to be like the big moment where this jury goes, "Oh wow, okay, so she's not this innocent grandma. She's talking in code. She's flipping out." Charlie was flipping out in some of these calls. It's going to be very big for that jury. Maybe not so much for us because we've heard them before, but I think for the state, the wiretaps, like you say, it's just going to be kind of their slam dunk, aside from Rob, for
Yeah.
me right now.
Yeah. Nick Starro, thank you so much. Good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you stopping by. Says Donna made sure Wendi was taken care of and themselves when they tried to escape, and poor Charlie only did what he was told, and everybody abandoned him. That's very true. Didn't sign the waiver. I would be mad too. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they didn't include him in their escape plans. Everybody kind of abandoned him. But to your point earlier too, or someone made a comment. She not only is losing everyone, but it's not even going like she's going to prison and is going to have her family to visit her. I mean, it's going to be Harvey. Wendy's not
Yeah.
stopping by. Charlie's locked up. It's obvious that Rob has got, kind of cut ties with everything. So yeah, excellent point, Nick. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that.
But the one thing Donna did do in Charlie's favor is she did put some money aside for his son. But I'm sure Charlie could care less. I mean, it's, he was convicted. There was really nothing she could do to help him other than, put some honey bun money on his commissary fund at that point. But, they talked a lot in jail. And are those jail calls going to come in? I think so.
Yeah.
There was a lot.
100%.
I mean, there were thousands of minutes, just thousands of calls.
Those are going to be really, really interesting too, because they don't know how much they're giving away in those conversations.
And the thing too is, I think for the jury to hear from the defendants with their own ears and their voices, as opposed to a prosecutor narrating this stuff, that's just even more powerful for the prosecution in their corner, because you can decide the tone, you can decide the intent, but behind these conversations. So again, the prosecution got a lot to play with. It got Charlie convicted. And, this trial, I still think some things are going to be different because there are unique things to Donna, like the jailhouse informant with this handwritten script they were going to come to this trial and testify to. So, are they going to take the stand? There's a lot to look forward to. It's just
there is a lot. There's a lot still to be done. They're getting through it quickly, but the more you talk, the more you realize, there's still a lot of ground for them to cover.
100%.
What is your plan on your channel? Are you doing your nightly updates, or what can people look forward to on your channel?
Yeah, so I'm live streaming the trial every day, and then every night I do a recap of the day's best testimony in an hour or less. Tonight it's going to be more of it was yesterday's testimony because I've been at the hospital half the day and I still have about 5 hours of work to do. But on a normal day, so I just recap for those people that can't watch or really don't want to watch 8 hours of court every day. I just take out all the BS and just put in the meat of the testimony. So I do that every night. So if you want recaps, or if you watched and want to, think about or maybe find out things you didn't hear, come see me. That's kind of what I love doing, is breaking it apart and condensing it in a shorter episode. So tonight will be 2 because I'm doing before lunch, and then it's going to be a long one for the second because I'm doing after lunch for Wendi and Rob. So yeah, but that's what I do. So come check it out if you like that kind of stuff. And Yeah. So it's going to be a busy few weeks, then Crime Con. So I
Oh,
fully
that's right.
expect a verdict at Crime Con.
As would be the perfect timing.
Like
Gigi,
Chad Daybell's was.
I know, I remember you running around. Oh my God, verdict.
Yeah. Yep.
Gigi, you're remarkable. You're wonderful. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. If everybody is not following Pretty Lies and Alibis, do yourself a favor and subscribe over there right now. Thank you again, my friend. Very good to see you.
Appreciate you. Always happy to come on and chew the fat with you.
All right. Say hi to Grammy for us too.
I will. Thank you guys. Thanks to all the listeners for the kind words. I appreciate y'all.
Take care. All right, guys. Thank you so much to Gigi. Thank you so much to Catherine Rager for the gifting the membership. Appreciate that. Let me get you some announcements and then get you guys out of here. Thank you so much for sticking around tonight. Yeah, there's a lot of trial to still be had here. It certainly is not over by any means, but I do feel that today will be pointed back to as one of those days that just was pivotal. I feel like at this point moving forward, jurors are trying to find a reason why she's not guilty, if that makes sense. I almost feel like this pushed it over the edge, and now all the prosecution can do is kind of mess things up. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving it more credit than it deserves. Anyhow, I want to tell you guys about thecourtroomconfidential.com. That's our website. That is where you can go, where if you want to leave us a message, you can leave us a voice message and we answer those live on Sundays. If you know, Sunday Fun Day, we go through all the messages that you guys have left us throughout the week and answer them live. Always a great time. If you want to check out membership, a lot of people joined tonight. We appreciate that. Welcome to the crew. But if you're curious about how to do that, the easiest way is go to thecourtroomconfidential.com and click on become a member and find out about all of the benefits and fun time that we're having there. And if you want to check out merch, what am I wearing tonight? Where's Johnny Knoxville? I know he was already he's already involved in illegal betting, trying to figure out what color shirt it is I'm wearing tonight. What is this, Tiff? It's not chalky mint, says Kaylin. I don't think it's chalky mint either. We've got a bunch of new colors. I see Seafoam is being guessed. We've got a bunch of new colors. We've got new tumblers, by the way. Here's one of them here. Let's get juiced. We've also got the wine-sized one. Let's get juiced with the logo on the back for your Pinot on the go. Tiffany says it's Blue Lagoon, question mark. I don't know. You tell me. Blue Lagoon, sea blue, mint green. We'll go with Blue Lagoon. I like it. It's beautiful. And then we've got these brand new What's Happening Here t-shirts. You guys asked for it and we came through. So check those out as well. What did you miss this weekend? On Saturday, we did our weekly roundup. Please check it out. It's up on the website right now, on the channel right now. Talking about Donna Adelson and Brian Koberger and the Menendez brothers. If you hadn't heard, by the way, they both got denied parole. There's Courtney Clenny as well. She was back in court. So a lot that we covered that took place last week. Catch yourselves up if you don't have the time to be watching every single one of these cases. And we had Sunday Fun Day, which I just talked about. So it was a fabulous Sunday Fun Day. Many people say it was one of their favorites. A lot of interesting cases we got into. A lot of stuff about Donna Adelson and Wendi Adelson's use immunity. So check that out, answering a bunch of your questions. And maybe that'll help you work up the courage to ask a question for this week. We would really enjoy that. Stay tuned. All this week, like I said, we are going to be covering the Donna Adelson trial gavel to gavel on our sister channel, Courtroom Confidential Live Trials. If you haven't already joined up over there, please do subscribe, set notifications so that you don't miss anything. And tomorrow is going to be day 3. There she is. Side eye, giving us side eye because she's worried about the handcuffs coming. The Donna Adelson trial. And then on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we do our special Wednesday Night Live. And our guest this Wednesday is going to be Gisela from Grizzly True Crime. I'm a big fan of Gisela. I know a lot of you are. I'm waiting for all the teddy bears to show up in the chat. We're going to be talking about Donna again, because it's just kind of the biggest news going on right now. And Gisela's been following that trial day to day as well. And I'm curious to hear her thoughts and reactions on all these things, because she always brings an extra element of South African snark, patent pending. Then, if you haven't heard about CrimeCon, it sounds like Gigi's going to be there. We're going to be there. If you would like to be there, it's coming up on September 5th through 7th, which is, by the way, less than 2 weeks away. Is that right? We have this weekend, and then it's the following weekend. So it's coming up. If you're still looking to buy tickets, we can give you a discount code. If you enter courtroom, all one word, all in caps, you get 10% at checkout. And we hope that you're there, because we'd love your support, because we also, this little string and scotch taped together channel has been nominated for an award at CrimeCon, the Clue Awards for Outstanding Episodic Podcast. So we would love your support. Please come say hi, and maybe we'll be out there winning an award. I don't know. Fingers crossed, everybody. Let me thank some of our new members: Carol, Robbie, KS, Beautiful Waterfall, Esprit Fleck, Annie Legg, Dominique, Mountain Bee 23, Travel Gal 7074, Candy Temple, Granny Detective, Ann Winkin, Hilda B, Carmel Overgard, War Dam Eagle, Kate's mom, Tangerine, and Stephanie Guten. Thank you guys so much for joining the crew. If you want to learn more about it, like I said, go to thecourtroomconfidential.com. Special thanks to our mods, Afton and Shy Gal and Kathy, and therapists. Thank you for keeping everything running so smoothly. To Kaylin for making this look like the wonderful masterpiece that it always is. And to Tiffany, my wonderful wife, for being the best thing that ever happened to me and coming up with the crazy idea for this channel just over a year ago. All right, you guys, have a wonderful rest of your Monday. Thank you again for Gigi for being here. And I will see you guys Wednesday night. Take care, everybody.